Hey, everybody. We wanted to take a quick moment before the start of the show to say a couple of words about the death of Chadwick Boseman. And we are all kind of geeks and we're all into the Marvel Cinematic Universe. So we just kind of want to talk about a little bit about the death that kind of, I think it all hit us in differently, but all hard. And we just wanted to kind of spread our condolences towards Chadwick Boseman and his family. And just wanted to say, how much we appreciate his work, as short-lived as it was.
Yeah, it was definitely something that I didn't think would hit me as hard as it did. I agree with you, Ant, because like you said, it's not about how long he's been around, but just the quality of work that he did. I mean, he came out with just classic character after classic character, and they were all giants of history, Jackie Robinson, all those titans of history. And then, of course, his big one, Black Panther. And I'll never forget when he first arrived in Civil War, just like how great of an entrance it was and how he really stole the show. And his movie, I've told this story on social media a couple of times, but Jen and I went to the opening night of Black Panther, and as we were going in, there was a family coming out, and they were wearing traditional African garb. They were dancing and singing, and the father of the family asked me to take a picture of his family in front of the Black Panther cutout, and they did the Wakanda Forever signal. And it was just like, man, you don't see that in theaters. You don't see that kind of representation and that kind of joy in theaters anymore, especially whole families. So and a lot of people will always say, it's a comic book character, it's for kids, and that's not necessarily true. And I think that story really shows that how important not only the character was, but how he portrayed the character, and him doing these monumental movies while the diagnosis he had is nothing short of phenomenal. And to me, he's a real life hero.
Well said. Yeah. Mark, do you have anything to add?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if it's as we're getting older. I've seen all of Chadwick's movies and they've all been great. But I think as we get older, we also these deaths start hitting a little harder. Like I just remember back when Kobe Bryant died, just because he died with his daughter, and I have a niece around the same age, so it hit me a little hard just thinking about all that. And here, as we get older, you start thinking about our health and things like that. Like, he's 43 years old and died of cancer. It's something that can come at any time, and just to see the strength and that he showed throughout going to those hospitals with those kids that had the same diagnosis as him, in terms of, in some cases, terminal, like he probably was near the last year and a half when he got to stage 4, and just not letting any of that energy go and just being there for them. And just now, all those speeches he gave, you look back and he was trying not to keep that very private, but you could tell, just remembering the words, what he going through his head. But I think the thing we'll miss, and it's always a thing that makes you angry watching movies and watching all this, is sometimes these actors that are really talented and from a real place as an actor, like the gravitas and the I think it's pathos is the term I'm looking for, that he brought to Jackie Robinson and Thurgood Marshall and King T'Challa, and just you felt that character through him, and very rarely do you see that. And it's a shame that he doesn't get to age gracefully and maybe become what a guy like Idris Elba is starting to do as he gets a little older, or Denzel. And we don't get to see him move into the Morgan Freeman phase of his career at the end. And the one statement I'll make is, I will stand by that the best interaction between two characters in the whole MCU, in terms from an acting standpoint, is just between him and Michael B. Jordan. That entire hero villain back and forth, and just the acting clinics, not to use a cliche term, they put on in some of those scenes to just sell you on what was going on, is what really drew me into Black Panther. And it's going to be sad. It's tough, but at least now you can go back, watch all those movies, and they're there forever, and you can show your kid yeah, I think as you've seen all throughout social media and all this stuff, he's gonna be missed by everybody that came in contact with him. He just one of those special human beings that touches everyone that he in a way through the rest of their lives once they meet him, and even us through the screen. But yeah, it was kind of one of those shocks where you just hoped it was like a fake tweet, like from a fake account when it popped up. Kind of the same thing with the Kobe thing. It was one of those things that's like, no, this can't. No, I'm supposed to see him with gray hair. Like he's supposed to end up taking bad comedy roles in his 60s to try and make some money. This isn't how to go out, but it's a lot better that he did all this work and he didn't have that fade out at the end of his career. All of his good work is there and can be celebrated without any stains on it near the end. If there's any silver lining, that can be one of them. And also go see your doctors if you feel anything weird, no matter what your age is. A man in his late 30s ended up having colon cancer. So just stay on top of your health, because even guys that we think are superheroes and invincible can get this stuff.
Yeah, so once again, we just wanted to say our condolences to Chadwick Boseman. We're going to miss you, his family, deepest condolences, and the fans too, because Hollywood is 50% fans. So anybody that is feeling hurt by his loss, we're with you on that. So, but on to more positive things, and we're going to go into our episode now. So on with the show.
I ran across a news article about a cardiologist in LA. He fell in love with a teenage girl, kidnapped her, faked her death. Then he ran off to Mexico, and he's wanted by the FBI. And he looks like this.
Okay, I think we're done here. It was love at first sight. At last sight.
I'm a doctor. Get out of the way. How long were you in Mexico?
2 months.
What do you do for a living?
I'm a doctor.
You're never going to guess who I ran into today.
Dr. Slauson.
He came by school. My mom's been really sick.
What's wrong with her?
They say she has all kinds of anxieties. Claustrophobia, fear of heights.
She doesn't need another doctor. She needs a boyfriend.
Amy told me you had some medical issues, and I thought maybe I could help.
What do you want from me?
I'm thinking I could date the mother, which would help me get closer to the daughter.
Excuse me?
This is the first guy since your dad that I was seriously doubting I could ever feel this way again.
She's not like other women. She understands me. We have a connection. I can feel it. This is love.
He's such a great guy. He helped me get over my fear of heights. He's kind, he's generous, and he's
a pervert. What? You should have seen the way he was looking at me, asking me about my sexual experiences.
You shouldn't have asked her about her sex life.
You know what's going on here, don't you? She doesn't want you to move on.
But do you think I wanted him to come on to me last night?
I'm not so sure that he did.
Victor asked me to marry him.
I want you to know that if anything ever happens to your mom, and she can't take care of you for whatever reason, I'll be there.
You barely know the guy. What if you're wrong about him?
Apparently, there is no Dr. Victor Slauson practicing medicine anywhere in the state of California.
I know it sounds crazy, but my mom's in trouble, and I think her new husband's gonna kill her.
Here we go.
I, Linda, take you, Victor, to be my lawfully wedded husband, to have and to hold from this day forward, for better, for worse, for richer, for poorer, in sickness and in health, until death do us part. He is so good, Mother.
Welcome to They Call This a Movie, testing the strength of friendships one terrible movie at a time. Subscribe to the podcast on iTunes and other podcast services by searching They Call This a Movie. We are part of the Main Namey Network, and to find more from us, check out the website at themainnamey.com or on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram at The Main Namey. We are also now a proud member of Geek Vibes Nation. You can find them at gvnation.com. Welcome back to They Call This a Movie. This is Anthony Delvecchio, and with me as always is Dan Aquino and Mark Myers. Say hello, gentlemen.
Hey, everybody. How's it going?
I can't believe they stole my idea to use stock photos when I'm trying to pick up women. Damn you, whoever wrote this movie.
I hope the women that you don't try and pull that on do not watch Stalked by My Doctor: The Return.
This is my boat.
obviously shot from someone else's boat. Before we get into that movie, guys, as we've been doing since we've been in quarantine, what have you watched this week?
Mark, I'll let you go first because I didn't watch anything. Still unpacking the new house. So if you've watched something, but I have a question for you guys. So when you're done.
I haven't watched anything because I've been doing the opposite of you and packing up a house over the last
look at
week.
us.
So look at us. Look at us.
Look, a little yin and yang thing going.
Hey, you.
Yeah.
Look at us.
Who would have thought it, right?
Yeah.
I guess
it's
then
on
I'm
your,
the only
it's on
person
your shoulders, and
I watched 2 movies, and I watched them all, both of them yesterday, because I wanted to have something to talk about. So we could just skip this whole thing if I knew.
You forced it. You watched it.
Yeah. I watched Queen and Slim, which was on HBO this week, which was excellent. Check that movie out. It's timely, and it's amazing how often, movies that even came out before this past May just keep becoming timely over and over again, and also this past week as well. And then I rewatched, first time in a long time, the original My Bloody Valentine, which is very different and not quite as timely. But it definitely has 31 Days of Horror, they call this movie episode, potential. Yeah, it's wacky. I haven't seen it since college. It's a weird one. It's very Canadian.
Was it actually written and produced in Canada?
Yes, I believe so.
Oh, nice. I've never seen that movie. That's worth a watch, I would imagine.
Did it have like that clean frame rate look that most Canadian TV shows have? If you know what I'm talking about.
Yeah, I like the 48 frames.
Yeah.
Just everything looks a little off. No, but no, it's just they spell everything with OU.
This is a new stereotype that I just learned of. Canada having like a weird frame rate.
Yeah, all their TV shows look like they're shot like soap opera.
No, cool. I did not know that. Thank you for.
It's ridiculous.
For teaching.
That's how I know when my grandmother would watch all those marathons on Ion TV and stuff like that, and some weird cop show would come up. I could tell immediately. Flashpoint came up, which was about a SWAT team, and before they even said it, halfway through the episode, I was like, "Oh, this has to be set in Canada." Turns out they were the Toronto Special Forces or whatever.
Nice.
Did they say process? Was that how you knew?
Yeah.
Process.
Yeah. And it was weird that it had Amy Jo Johnson in it, who I don't think is Canadian.
Okay.
But that was the first time I noticed it. I was like, when all those cop and doctor shows would come on that channel.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Well, Dan, what is your question? What can we talk about this week?
Okay, so just real quick, I should have sprung this on you guys earlier, but I just thought about it when I was going to the bank and Eye of the Tiger came on the radio, right? So It made me think, because my entire life, I always thought Eye of the Tiger was in Rocky 2, but It's in Rocky 3. So that's a huge misconception movie-wise. So I just want to know, what is a big movie misconception for the two of you? Something that you always thought was one thing, and then you maybe recently found out it's the opposite, or something completely, something different.
Can I take something I just learned from a movie we watched on this podcast?
Sure.
Yeah.
That Robert Loggia's character wasn't completely evil and over the top.
Okay.
The whole entire time, I thought his character kidnapped the boy or something, and was this completely evil for some reason.
But he was actually in the right.
So he wasn't sort of the Thanos was right character of that movie. But yeah,
Sure.
That was something that I thought my whole life, even have seen the movie in the last decade, that I completely forgot until we rewatched it for this podcast.
Cool.
Gotcha. The only thing I could think of off the top of my head is Go Ahead, Make My Day. Most people think it's from Dirty Harry, but it's actually from the sequel, Sudden Impact.
See, that's a good one, because I thought that was from Dirty Harry. See? Yeah, I don't know what made me think of it. I've known for a long time that Eye of the Tiger was from Rocky 3, but growing up, I always just imagined that was Rocky 2. It had to be Rocky 2, and then I saw Rocky 2, and it ended. I'm like, well, where the hell's Eye of the Tiger? What's going on here? My whole I probably figured it out when I was 20, but which is weird, because I'd definitely seen Rocky 2 before turning 20.
Sure.
But yeah, I don't know. It's almost like Luke, I am your father. That's not the real line. It's just no, I am your father.
Yeah. So
I was just curious, and in lieu of me not watching any movies, I thought that it was a good idea. Now, before we go any further, I wanted to pose a question to Ant real quick.
Okay.
I challenge you, Ant. If we don't open every podcast with the song Hallelujah, you're a coward. I'm just saying that. All right.
Only the Leonard Cohen version, right?
Yep. Yeah. If you don't do it, coward.
Well, now the pressure is on for me to put it in front of this episode.
That would crack me up if I turn the podcast on Thursday and the first thing I hear is that, you'd be my hero.
It'd be like 5 to 10 seconds of that song, and then they're just going, "Fuck you, Dan," and then going into the real opening of the episode.
It would make as much sense of it being played on our podcast as it did for and if people know what I'm talking about, then you get it. But it would make it as much sense as us playing it as where it was played.
Sure.
Yep.
But this is not the episode for that. But this week we're talking about a movie that was my pick. This is a movie that I saw, I think, the first time it aired on Lifetime. I don't know why. I don't know what situation I wound up watching this, because I don't make a habit of watching Lifetime movies. But this movie had an impression on me thanks to one Mr. Eric Roberts. So the movie we watched this week was from 2016, Stalked by My Doctor, The Return.
I was going to ask you which basic cable channel this movie first aired on.
So this aired on Lifetime on September 5th, 2016. Guys, where are you coming from with Stalked by My Doctor, The Return?
Oh, my goodness. Where am I coming from? This movie. Oh, boy. I loved it. I love
I'm
this
so happy
movie.
to hear that.
Yeah. God damn, man. I don't even have the words to describe how creeped out I am from watching this movie. And make no mistake, this movie's terrible, but it's just so cringeworthy. Eric Roberts just exudes creepy uncle. Just, oh man, he's so good at it. I've never heard of this movie before. I didn't know that 4 of them exist, I think, right? We said 4. I don't know who ordered 3 more of these movies after the first one came out. It has probably, out of any movie I've watched, at least on this podcast, it has the worst beginning and ending of just any movie I've seen, I think. It starts so abruptly and ends just like with a fourth wall breaking. Just out of nowhere. Nowhere in this movie is the fourth wall broken except at the end. And the beginning of the movie looks like it was just like someone was rolling with the cap on the camera and like, oh shit, we got to take it off. And then because it looks like it starts in the middle of a scene, right?
Right.
It's so weird, but I love this movie so much. It's so batshit crazy.
Can we say that fourth wall breaking winks at the camera should replace the freeze frame ending?
Oh no, I don't know about that. I think the freeze frame ending is just really an 80s, early 90s thing. So as we grow as a people and as the medium, expands and becomes more technologically advanced, you do have to change, I guess. So we don't see the freeze frame endings anymore, right? When's the last time you saw a freeze frame ending in a newer movie? Probably never.
That's a good question.
Yeah, if anyone knows out there, let us know. But yeah, I think the wink at the camera it's a good way to end the movie now, maybe. But it's just the freeze frame is upper echelon ending, in my opinion.
Okay. What about you, Mark?
Yeah. So first off, I was really excited when you said Eric Roberts was in this movie, and it didn't completely come into my head until you mentioned it in the chat why his performance was the way he was, and it's, as you said, because he was drunk the entire time on set, and that is exactly how he looked throughout this movie, which is why I was so fascinated watching this movie.
Let's say allegedly.
Allegedly. Yeah.
He has that drunk energy to him, though.
Yeah, the entire time. This movie was so fascinating because it got to a point with all the flashbacks and stuff that they were getting partially good at near like middle to end, where I couldn't tell what was a flashback. Like some of them were really obvious in the beginning, and then he has a scene a little bit midway through where it wasn't until maybe the funniest scene in the movie happens that I realized it was a flashback. When she falls off the second floor when they're making out.
The dream sequences are great.
Dream sequence, yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
I didn't know either. They blended it in very well.
Yeah,
Yeah.
like I thought that was real up until that moment when she falls down and they just laugh. Or a little bit before that when she's like, "Oh, he's so good, Mom," or whatever she says to her before she falls. This movie, it makes me want to watch the other three because I do also watch trash things at times. This character is so obvious that he's a pervert, but yet nobody can figure it out until like maybe they know him for like a month or whatever.
Sure.
But it's obvious in the first scene.
Yeah.
Or the first time they meet, I should say, not the first scene of the movie. But
Yeah.
And I like how the boyfriend picks up on it right away, kinda. And then as soon as he finds out who he is and he goes, "Oh, sorry, bro, how you doing?" But all the signs were there. I've seen you staring outside here for the last 2 days. What have you been doing?
Yeah.
Man, this movie, it was really good. Like, this was the first time in a while of a movie that we haven't liked and seen before that I didn't check the time, and when I did, I was like, "Oh, I'm like over halfway done this movie?" It's amazing.
And is this a movie where you would want it to be 15 minutes longer?
I could review all 4 movies on this podcast at some point, you know. If you are going to dive into these, the 4th one, he falls in love with a sleep treatment patient that has sexsomnia.
Nice.
I don't know if that's a real thing, but it sounds amazing.
It sounds like a writer having like going, "You got to keep writing these. I've run out of stuff. She has sexsomnia. I don't know."
He's a revelation in this movie. It's incredible. The reason why I picked this one over the first one, which I've also seen, I think the same day, is the dream sequences, the fantasy sequences are just so bonkers.
Yeah,
what I love about this movie, and like it's definitely not a good thing in terms of when you look at it as like a screenwriting perspective. It's like, who are you supposed to be rooting for in this movie?
Yeah.
I don't know. That's a good question.
Because the wink at the camera kind of ruins any be like, oh yeah, I wasn't supposed to be on his side for the whole thing. It was like, it's his movie at that point. It was like, hey, you were with me on this ride, and there's gonna be another one.
Right. Well, I remember I was watching it with Jen last night, and we're getting towards the end, and I was like, well, he has to escape. There's 2 more of these. At least I'm assuming he lives.
Right.
I absolutely loved the dream sequences. They were so good. They were so good.
I'm so glad you guys like this movie, because I was swinging for the fences. It was either between this or My Teacher, My Obsession, which is also a pretty good one. It's not a Lifetime movie, though. It was a Netflix original, but basically a Lifetime movie. It's got a great third act, which is straight up horror, which maybe another time, but I'm glad I picked this one.
The only thing I was disappointed about in this movie was the scene at the end. I really wanted the boyfriend to catch the mom when she gets...
just like he shows up out of nowhere.
Yeah, and just catches her.
That would have been pretty good.
That was the only thing that disappointed me. I'm like, all right, what's the most ridiculous way that this scene can end? And I'm like, oh, she gets pushes off and the boyfriend shows up just at that moment and catches her before she hits the ground.
The thing that was the funniest aspect of this movie was Eric Roberts is getting close to this mother to get closer to the daughter, right? He wants to nail the daughter.
Yep.
But he puts so much effort into getting with the mom, and he hates it. Like, you could see the look on his face where he's just like, oh, I gotta be with this woman. But he makes so much of an effort to be with her. You know what I'm saying? It's like, why are you putting forth so much effort when you know that you don't want to be with her? Like, that's such a long con for no reason.
He's curing her of all her ailments.
Right. Yeah.
I love that montage.
Yeah.
Never in my life have I wanted to do that to anyone where, like, you know, oh man, I want to get with her best friend, so I'm really gonna help the other person out, right? I'm gonna take her under my wing. That's so weird. That's such a roundabout way to get with someone else.
In a non creepy way, you have just described 2/3 of teen dramas that have been on the CW. But the person that they don't want to be with, they end up falling in love with.
It's so great. I love how he's so helpful and so creepy.
Yeah.
And everything he does, he definitely sounds like he knows what he's talking about in every aspect. It just makes it that much better because he's such a bullshit artist but he's so good at it.
Yeah.
Like, man, like I aspire to be that kind of a bullshit artist at times.
As one of my aspects, when he got caught, like near the end, it was on like the most ridiculous lie, like when the brother asked where he lived.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
And he says, of all cities, he says a city nearby where they are. In Salt Lake City, instead of going, oh no, I was in a band in like Richmond, Virginia, or
Why didn't
something
he
like
just
where
stick
this
with
brother
Atlanta?
could have never been to.
Right. Just stick with Atlanta. He said he was in Atlanta, like at the beginning of the movie.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right? Just pick Atlanta.
Yeah. Like, why say Salt Lake where there's a possibility this guy could have been before? And then just says, oh, downtown. That moment screamed of a screenwriter finding out a fact about a city
Right.
and wanting to put it in his movie.
Oh,
He
yeah.
probably
it's
lived
so
in Salt
specific.
Lake.
Yeah.
It's so specific to Salt Lake City, too.
Yeah. A lot of the things that Eric Roberts comes up with, his character comes up with, are very passable. You know what I'm saying? Like, even when he gets caught in a lie, he has a good way to get out of it. I mean, maybe it's just me, but if someone had told me, like, you know, oh yeah, I used to live in Salt Lake City. Like, oh, what was your address? You know, I honestly can't remember. I would be like, all right, I kind of believe that, because I don't remember the address where I used to live for like 13 years. My first 13 years, I can't remember.
So Roger isn't tipped off because he doesn't remember his address. Roger's tipped off because when he tells him his address, he's acting like he's speaking a different language.
Oh, because he says it's like a math problem.
Yeah,
Right.
basically.
So, but if he had never said that, it wouldn't have mattered.
It probably. Yeah.
Right. Okay. So that makes a little bit more sense, but still, I think it's kind of like, all right, well, whatever. The guy's like 60. Maybe he just doesn't remember. Who knows? He is still a very good con artist.
Yeah, he is.
He just picked the wrong city.
Yeah.
Yep. That's
One fatal mistake.
Yeah.
He should have picked a city that he knew. That was his problem.
Sure.
Yeah, and that's why it screams that the writer knew his gotcha moment was going to be that. And also, another thing that screams that he researched something and wanted to put it in a movie was the thing about the orgasms and sex thing, or whatever that hormone was, or whatever.
The oxytocin. Yeah, oxytocin. Yeah.
Yeah, it was some fact that he found out.
That would have been great. Like, he's helping her with, like, he's giving a seminar and he's teaching her about this. Like, well, you know, we're not learning about this in school. Just we're learning about, like, I don't know, heart palpitations or something like that. You know, just something totally different. Like, why are you teaching me about orgasms? By the way, we're not doing this.
I thought you were a heart doctor.
Right.
Yeah. Right.
Right. Yeah. That's she needed help with, like, the cardiovascular system. Like, yeah. So let's talk about orgasm. Just right out of left field. It definitely, the way that scene just jumps in, it is very jarring. The one thing I wanted to point out with Eric Roberts, do you think it's awkward at family reunions when Julia and Emma Roberts kind of get together and Eric Roberts is there?
I was going to say when he's the third most famous person in his family.
Right. I mean, because, you know, Julia Roberts was like America's sweetheart for the longest time, and Emma Roberts is doing her thing.
Still is. What are you talking about?
I mean, I like Julia Roberts. I think she's a fine actress. I enjoy her movies. And Emma Roberts is doing her thing now. I don't know how big she is at the moment, but, you know, she does TV and she's been in a few movies. She was in The Hunt recently. But then it's like, yeah, you know, I just did Stalked by My Doctor 7. It's kind of awkward, right?
I don't know. These seems like movies that he likes being in.
Sure.
Like,
but
it seems like he's having a good time. I think he enjoys playing this character. And maybe it's not my best friend's wedding, but it's like, you know what? I'm getting a paycheck. I'm having a good time. I'm shooting in Savannah or wherever this was shot. Actually, it was probably shot in LA for like a month or whatever, 2 months of my time.
Yeah, that looked like a very LA school that they were in.
Because it's been used 1,000 times, basically.
It's not the Easy A school, right? Because that's different.
I'm not sure.
Because that one's been used in a bunch, but I don't think it was this one.
Yeah. But Stalked by My Doctor, The Return, written and directed by Doug Campbell, who has done several Lifetime thrillers, including the first 3 Stalked by My Doctor films. It stars Eric Roberts, Claire Blackwelder, Hilary Greer, Mark Grossman, Christopher Crabb, Leslie Kay, and Tiffany Adams. Has an IMDb score of 5.7 and a Rotten Tomatoes score, audience only, of 31%. And as mentioned, this premiered on Lifetime September 5th, 2016. And it's a wild.
By the way, the actress that played Amy, because I was just making sure I didn't hear of her before, I clicked her, and most of her only credits are Power Rangers.
Yeah, the Dino bots or something like that.
Yep.
Yeah. Like I was like, is this some actress that like I haven't heard from, or some singer trying to act or something? And I clicked on it, and the first thing was Power Rangers. I was like, oh, that explains it a little more, maybe.
It's funny. She's from Idaho, and for some reason she looks like she's from Idaho. I can't pinpoint why, but she looks just like a bumpkin to me. I don't know why. I don't know why.
Damn,
she
coming out hot.
She screams Boise, Idaho. If anyone can, that is.
Wow. All right, you ready to get into the plot?
So unnecessary.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, Claire. I apologize.
Dan, what do you got for us this week?
So, as I've been doing, I'd like to give a shout out to our good friend Tia from Geek Vibes Nation and her podcast Top 10 with Tia. It's a weekly podcast where Tia and her friends get together and discuss top 10 lists. So top 10 movies, top 10 directors, Marvel, DC, they run the gamut of top 10 lists. So go over to Geek Vibes Nation, check her out, and give her a follow on Twitter at TC_Stark. She's a great person, good friend of the podcast. Go give it a listen.
Okay, and we're going to take a quick break. But before we get into the plot, we're going to take a moment to listen to some messages from friends of the podcast. So we will be right back.
Hey everyone, this is Steve.
And this is Adam.
And we're part of the Hop Nation USA podcast,
Pittsburgh's #3 craft beer podcast.
Join us every Friday for new beer reviews.
We'll talk about the news, history, and homebrewing.
Plus, we'll sit down with the best brewers and industry personalities that'll have us.
So whether you're a casual drinker, a hazy boy hophead,
or even if you're a whale hunting cellar hoarder,
just search Hop Nation USA on Apple, Spotify, or your favorite podcatcher and join the nation.
Oh hi, didn't see you there. It's me, George, from the best little horror house in Philly, the show where we talk about the best horror movie ever made, according to our guest at least. We've talked about groundbreaking classics like Texas Chainsaw Massacre and Alien, but we've also got a lot of great ones coming up, including some very fun guests like Len Kabaczynski of Swamp Zombies and Red Letter Media fame, Caroline Williams, the star of Texas Chainsaw Massacre 2, and Chase Williamson from John Dies at the End. So make sure you're subscribed to the best little horror house in Philly, and I'll see you boils and ghouls over there.
And welcome back, and now it's time to get into the plot for Stalked by My Doctor, The Return from 2016. We open at a resort in Acapulco, Mexico, as a woman sits down at a poolside lounge, and Eric Roberts approaches her and introduces himself as Victor. She's Rachel from New York, he's from Atlanta. He buys her a drink and they talk. Rachel's friend apparently ditched her for a dude she met while down there. And Rachel jokes and asks Victor what he's doing down in Mexico and asks if he's hiding from the FBI. He laughs and says yes. And then he says no, he's actually a pediatrician, and then shows her stock pictures of his house and his boat. And he tries the line where he's going to name his boat after her.
Yeah, that would have worked on me, to be honest. I would have fallen for that hook, line, and sinker.
Well, you'd be a bumpkin just like Claire.
Yep.
Yeah, and I love how they didn't even try to make the photos look anything convincing. Like, they're obviously shot from, like you said, the boat looks like it's shot from someone else's boat on the water.
Yeah. They aren't pictures of him by the boat, that's for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's like Shutterstock or whatever.
Yeah. He tries to use that. He tries to tell her that he'll name his boat after her, and then she laughs in his face and calling his lines a bunch of shit. And then she says that she made $1 million last year after taxes, and she shames him and embarrasses him until he leaves.
That house you showed me looks like a shack compared to my house.
Yeah, I mean, at that point, you're just kind of being a jerk.
I mean, she's being a jerk, but also he's got a routine, and it's obvious. It's gross all around.
Yeah, on both sides, for sure.
Yeah.
You don't, once you start throwing money into the conversation, it's like, well, you could have just said no.
Yeah. I don't exactly feel bad. Like I don't feel like I'm on her side, but I also don't feel like I'm on his side either.
Right. I don't think either of them handled that situation well.
There's a reason her friend ran away with the first guy she met in Mexico.
Right.
That's true. Yeah, she's probably the fun one.
Yeah.
She won't stop talking about how much money she made. God, it's annoying. We get it. You're super wealthy.
Sometime later, Victor hangs out on the beach drinking some margaritas, and for some reason, armed police stroll the beach. But then magically, those police disappear when a girl is brought back to the beach unconscious after being pulled out on the riptide or an undertow. So begrudgingly, when no one else will step in, Victor springs into action when the guy that pulls her out of the water starts fucking up the rescue attempt.
He does the move from Dumb and Dumber. Out with the bad, in with the good. Out with the bad, in with the good.
So he manages to successfully give her CPR and then tells her mom to bring her to the emergency room ASAP. And then he's got starry eyes for this girl when she comes to. So he goes to the hospital and Amy, the girl, gets wheeled out by her mom and they thank him. Then he starts up with this whole routine about his house and his boat again, and Amy falls for it hook, line, and sinker. Amy offers to take him out to dinner to show gratitude, but her mom doesn't feel comfortable, so he says she should rest but wants to get a group photo.
The first time they meet, he just puts his arm around her without any hesitation.
Yeah.
To show her the photos.
No hover hand.
Well, don't you think it's also like the mom's right there? Why are you hitting on her, saying I'm gonna name my boat Amy? Like, okay, we're gonna have to go now. This jumped from 1 to 10 in the creep factor, real quick.
I believe this is the engaged physically aspect of the dentist system.
The dentist system. Yeah. I wish that would have happened in this movie, because going into it, I thought he's definitely going to seduce this young girl, right? And that never plays out in this, which was kind of disappointing to me, at least. I mean, not for. I know that sounds weird. Like I like when old men hit on young women. I'm not saying that. It just seemed that way, right? It's stalked by my doctor, and then because she, like you said, she falls for it immediately, right?
Yeah.
I was like, oh man, like she's his for sure. Like, and now the mom's gonna have to fight off, but it doesn't go that route. It's interesting.
Yeah, sure. I get what you're saying, because her red flags start to go up pretty early.
Exactly.
Yeah. So then Victor has a Skype call with his therapist and tells her the whole story of how he saved the girl from drowning and how he's basically in love with her now. He then explicitly talks to her about how he's going to fly out to San Diego so that he could try and date the mother in order to get close to the daughter. The therapist gets super uncomfortable and tries to get him a prescription for antidepressants, and he refuses and tells her that her services are no longer needed. Then we get to see Victor have a meltdown, but with no audio, so we are robbed from witnessing a truly wonderful batshit performance.
That was so good. What do you think he was saying?
I don't know. I
deserve love. I'm a good man.
The last thing we get to hear him say is, what? No one believes me or something like that.
Yeah, it's the rantings of a madman. It's awesome. Yes. How do you not let us hear that?
They just let him go.
I wonder if it was just like really him going crazy and like, oh, we got to film this quick.
Yeah. Like, just feel out the room, Eric. Show us what you got.
Oh, he does, man. He chews the scenery.
He's like, I'm going to need a couple more scotches first.
Yeah, this is kind of what I mean, where you go up against, when you have such a lineage in the Roberts family, you have this compared to what Julia Roberts does, Erin Brockovich and all that, and it's just like, well, I can see why he's doing this and she's doing, she had all the talent, is what I'm saying. I think she got all the talent in the family.
Sure. We then cut to the San Diego airport customs, and Victor has a mild panic attack as he remembers scenes from the first movie, has visions of getting arrested by TSA for attempted murder. But in reality, he gets through TSA without incident.
Honestly, he could have told them who he was, and Homeland Security probably couldn't have done shit. Welcome back. You kidnapped someone, murdered
you
someone.
guys are the best.
Yeah, they're useless. So he would have been fine.
So then Victor shows up to Amy's high school, sees Amy walk out with her friends, and is about to go approach her when her boyfriend shows up. And then the boyfriend sees him and pulls him out of the car, because apparently Victor has been there for a few days that week, just sitting in his car like a super creep. So the boyfriend punches him right in the stomach.
I like when he gets beat up a couple times in this movie, and he always has like this. He's like, wait, don't hit me. He sounds so pathetic.
You know what? This is so like all our action stars afraid to take a punch. Eric Roberts willing to take a punch on screen.
Yeah, it's
all
pretty
I'm gonna
good.
say, you know?
But he always does like the old rope a dope. Like, wait, look over there.
But he does. He gets his ass kicked twice in this movie. A person like Steven Seagal's never gotten hit once in any of his movies.
Did you see, not to go off on a tangent, but someone on Twitter posted an ending fight scene from Seagal's recent movie, I guess.
Yeah.
And it's really just like puppet slap fighting. Instead of like an actual choreographed fight scene.
Yeah.
It's just like them kind of looking at each other, and then they slap a little bit, and then I don't think Seagal gets hit in the entire sequence.
He's never gotten hit.
It's impressive. That level of douchebaggery.
So the boyfriend punches him in the stomach, and Amy stops him from just about kicking the shit out of him. And Victor makes some excuse that he just wanted to check up on her, and he gives her a personalized life jacket. It's just ridiculous.
Just so many red flags in a row.
Yeah.
Amy explains to her boyfriend that this is the doctor that saved her life, and then he apologizes, and the three of them go to lunch. So he asks Amy about how her mom is doing, and Amy talks about the fact that her mom is depressed and anxious, and we see a cut to the mom manifesting those anxieties into not being able to handle a glass bowl without dropping it and shattering it all over the floor. And she's afraid of ladders too, and claustrophobia, fear of heights, bridges. Then Amy asks Victor to talk to her mom as a doctor. Amy's boyfriend says she just needs a boyfriend, and he gives her his card and insinuates that he only tracked her down so he could date her mom. So Amy goes home and tells her mom she ran into Dr. Slauson, which is Victor. She gives her mom his business card, which is a business card that Patrick Bateman would snicker at because it's like a thin, like something cut out of an 8x11 piece of paper.
Yeah, his forgery skills are not very good in this movie.
Not at all. Can't even get the LabCorp typeface correct.
Right. I think he just banks on people being idiots, really.
I mean, he gets far with that assumption.
Very far. But yeah, it's just like such a stock. Everything he has is very stock, right? It's just like, oh, yep, it has the doctor symbol on it, essentially. Yeah, that looks legit, I guess. He's a doctor.
Yeah. It's kind of like those people that walk into grocery stores without masks these days, and they hand over those HIPAA cards. Oh, I could go. And I was like, that's not what that is.
Yeah, the new ones are religious freedom.
Yeah.
Yeah. The one thing that cracks me up in this movie, and it really goes to show how far he's willing to go. At one point in the movie, because he's pretending to be a doctor. I mean, I guess he was a doctor in the first one, correct?
Yes.
So he's still, he's carrying on this ruse. He just goes to a random hospital and just in a doctor's coat, I guess, and no one questions it. No one questions him throughout this movie. It's great.
He just hangs out in the lobby until Amy shows up.
Right. I mean, again, the long con, man. This guy has the patience of a saint. I don't know what he does, but he's on the ball.
He can't be crazy if he's this calculating.
Right. I mean, I guess it's like borderline, right? Like genius, crazy kind of thing.
Yeah.
He definitely covers his tracks pretty well.
So Amy gives her mom the business card and tells her to call him because he kind of wants to date her, but Amy's mom is not super into dating Victor at the moment. But she relents and she goes on to a date with Victor. And they go on a date and Linda questions his motives, saying that he doesn't know her at all. And the only time he ever met her, she was in hysterics and all that kind of stuff. And then meanwhile, Victor's only thinking about Amy and occasionally thinking about slashing Linda's throat.
That seemed to be like the worst way to pick her up. Is like, I don't know you. I want to meet the girl that I saw on the beach when she was screaming for her daughter's life. That's the woman I want to see right now.
But again, he's thinking on his feet, right? It's pretty clever, right? Because she's kind of got him on the ropes there. Like, you only knew me for a half hour, and when I did, I was going crazy. So like, obviously, I'm not at my most attractive, but like, bam, he's on it, man. He knew how to play that fiddle. Like, yeah, well, I like the fire that I saw there, and the woman who was willing to do anything for her daughter. And it was like, oh shit, man, Eric Roberts, he's pulling it out, man. Pulling out all the punches.
Yeah, eventually Linda gets up to go to leave, but Victor gives her some line about how he thought she was beautiful by how she handled herself when Amy almost drowned. So she starts thinking differently about Victor at this moment. So Linda and Victor go on a walk, and he asks about her anxieties. She tells him that they all started when her husband fell off a ladder and died. And to me, there's still nothing funnier than cutting to someone face down on the floor.
I think I was watching this, and I said to Jen, like, he's not really going to die from falling off the ladder, is he? from a painting accident. What a terrible, lame way to go out. Yep. If I die from falling off a ladder for like painting something, please make something else up. I don't care what it is. Just make something up. Just like, I don't know, like I was attacked by a group of rabid dogs or something. Like, oh yeah, I don't want to be known as the guy who was taken out by a painting accident.
Oh, I'm going to make sure it's at least 2 paragraphs in your obituary.
From falling from the ladder?
Yeah.
Well, you know, Dan had been around ladders most of his life. I guess he just got a little too cocky and and he didn't set it correctly, and down he went.
Yeah, I feel like it's a really preventable death.
Oh yeah.
Like even if you're there's so like a ladder falls at such a rate, you know?
And he wasn't that far off the ground.
Yeah.
He was maybe a few feet up.
It's like learn to use your hands, man. Break your fall, break your arms, you know. But like just accepting your fate of I'm gonna crack my head open on this cement.
This is it.
I think it was more the height of the ladder that bothered me more than actual dying from it.
It's
yeah, he's not far up.
12 feet off the ground.
Yeah.
If that.
Like, all heights in this movie. So like at the end of the movie, Linda gets stuck on the ledge, right?
Not nearly far enough.
Like once she so if she falls forward and like loses her balance and she falls, she can hit her head and all that. But when she catches miraculously, she catches herself and she's dangling off the balcony. She has cleared any chance of her dying.
Right.
Like, unless she decides to push off, land on her back and her head. All she has to do is drop down. Maybe she'll break an ankle or something like that.
I was going to say, she runs the risk of breaking her ankle at that point.
Like Eric Roberts does in The Dark Knight.
Yeah.
Yeah, there you go.
But
I totally forgot he was in that movie.
This death seems preventable. Even if the fall wasn't preventable, you could just like bail out of a ladder.
Right. Listen, Clark Griswold falls off of a ladder onto a tree into the bush, and he lives. You're going to tell me that, and he was much further up, by the way, or at least at the same height.
Yeah.
Right. So you're going to tell me that this loser couldn't figure out how to bail? That's what this guy was. He was a total loser. He deserved to die, and the world is better off for having him gone.
It's true.
If that's how you're going to go, you should have died years ago. How you made it this far in life is beyond me.
So Victor and Linda go back to Linda's house, and Victor gives her some herbal remedy to help her sleep. He also takes a look into her fridge and makes note of some drinks in there, specifically some iced tea. Then he wants to try some experiments, which is so weird. So he tries to slowly get her used to heights by making her stand on a book and then on a step stool. Then he wants her to up it to stand on a bar stool, but she freaks out, and he's like, all right, I'm not going to push it. And then she invites him to a beach weekend with her, Amy, and Amy's boyfriend, Garth. So they go to the beach, and Victor just can't help staring at Amy and making it super obvious that he's into her. And I just wanted to point out, because I put it in my notes, I wanted to point out Victor's wardrobe choices for beach attire. First, they play soccer, and he's in a polo and khakis.
Yep.
And then they sit down to have a picnic, and he's in a button-down and a sport coat. But meanwhile, everybody else are in the same clothes in both scenes, so I don't know what's going on here. He's got a change of clothes nobody else does. That's what I'm saying. And
yeah, that's I didn't even notice that. I guess I was too infatuated with just what else was going on. I don't know.
Well, he's always got to have a go bag ready, so he always has extra clothes.
That's
true.
Yeah.
You never know. The feds might be onto him.
So while he's having a picnic with Linda, he's staring past her to watching Amy undo her top slightly so Garth can massage her and being a real creepy uncle about it.
He doesn't even try to hide it, really.
No, yeah, he's super obvious. And he has a one-on-one with Garth. He asks what Garth's plans are with Amy, and Garth jokes that he's just going to bang her until he's sick of her, but then confides in Victor, a man he's met once before and has already punched in the stomach once. They're planning to get married after graduation.
I'd be a little worried if I was Amy marrying Garth. He seemed a little too comfortable doing that stomach punch.
He has some anger
You know,
issues.
because he knows how to hide it from the cops.
There you go.
Is he a football player?
Soccer.
Okay, never mind.
I believe he's a goalie, which makes it even more funny. Because I think there's a scene later on where he has the goalie gloves on when he's talking to those other two girls.
Right. I mean, they're getting ready for the game, but yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know why he's being full goalie attire.
I'm assuming the writer was a goalie.
I think you're assuming too much there. That's a weird thing to assume.
He's like, goalies are cool in soccer. I'm going to prove it in this movie.
They get the awesome gloves.
They're the only ones who can use their hands. I'm telling you, it's cool.
So Linda and Amy walk on the beach and have a talk. Amy says that she's going to ask Victor to help her with her physiology homework. Amy says that her mother is a burden on her, and they both get upset. And then back to Victor and Garth. Victor overplays his hand a bit, suggesting that if he were Garth, he'd be trying to have sex with as many girls as possible. So Garth accuses Victor of checking out Amy, and Victor says that's crazy because she could be my daughter, which Garth then corrects to granddaughter, which is true.
Victor kind of he bitches out there, right? He's like, yeah, man, like if I would have had my run of the goodies or whatever. Yeah. And he's like, well, you telling me to cheat on her? He's like, no, of course not, man. You're twice as old as this guy. Just like assert yourself a little, man.
He's a lot bigger than Eric Roberts, though.
Yeah, but I think my natural way of thinking is like whenever I was younger and an adult was talking, even if I didn't agree, I'd just like, oh yeah, man, sure, sounds good, just to kind of like, okay, we're done here. But I would have never really been confrontational with them.
Yeah.
So if a guy was like, yeah, I would have done this, and this, like, oh, cool, good, good for you, and that would have been the end of it. I probably wouldn't have just been like, what the fuck are you trying to tell me, man? You want me to just cheat on my girl?
Garth's a very confident 17-year-old.
He is. I guess kudos to him.
Yeah. After this, Victor has an emotional high-speed car ride back to his unfurnished house and then mixes some iced tea with some laxatives and other things. Victor then sneaks into Linda's house in the middle of the night and replaces some of the iced tea in the fridge with the iced tea mixed with laxatives. And Linda wakes up and heads to the kitchen, almost catching Victor, who manages to sneak into the living room before she comes into the kitchen. Linda makes some of the sleeping aid Victor gave her and heads to bed. But as she is, Amy and Linda almost run into each other on the stairs, so they both head back to the kitchen. Amy grabs some of the poisoned iced tea out of the fridge and drinks it, while she complains that her mother keeps the house too cold. So Amy goes to grab her sweatshirt from the living room, almost catching Victor, and then they both go off to bed. The next morning, Amy wakes up feverish and nauseous, throwing up into a wastebasket. Meanwhile, Victor is sitting down to breakfast when his phone rings. It's Linda. She tells him that Amy is sick and asks him to come over immediately. He says he's hopping into the car right now, but really he's still going to eat his pancakes first, which his pancakes spell out Amy in one of the best moments of the movie.
I almost legitimately did a spit take when they cut and the pancakes said Amy. I was like taking a drink at the time that popped up because I was not expecting that at all.
Gloriously crazy.
Oh, man.
Did he mean for her to drink it?
It doesn't seem like it.
Right.
No.
Who was it meant for? The mother?
I guess so. Yeah.
That's
I mean, I guess his plan works regardless, but yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, it depends on, you were talking about him working on the fly, so maybe the whole blood test thing, which you're getting to, was him changing his plan.
Yeah.
Or it might have been the plan all along.
Yeah,
that's what I'm saying. It seems like that was the plan all along.
Well, when he sees her take the drink, he looks upset.
Right.
So I'm not sure, but
yeah.
that's why I read out of his facial expression.
And also, they are the most unaware people of their own home. Like there's no way he should have been able to hide behind the chair when she comes in the living room there. And also, who doesn't realize that there wasn't a giant bag from a medical supply place or whatever sitting on the middle of your kitchen area?
Counter. Yeah. That's probably something that should have been noticed.
Well, she does notice it, but she doesn't think anything of it.
Yeah, and I think she's, maybe he left it behind.
Yeah.
Now, shouldn't the laxative have been for the boyfriend? Don't right? I mean, in terms of movie rules, usually the guy just pretty much insulted you, right? So you would think that this is his way of getting back at him. That's what I would have done.
Or because of how much he's a long con guy, he gets her sick. Does the blood test, tells her she has herpes, and then that's how he gets back at the boyfriend.
Look, this is all nurture dependence.
Yeah.
I guess, yeah. So
This is
essentially, I could never fake being a doctor, is what I'm saying. I would have just rushed it and gotten caught way earlier.
It's classic dentist system stuff, man. Demonstrate value. He saves her, right? Shows off his house in Mexico and his boat, right? Engages physically, puts his arm around her. Now he's nurturing dependence. He never gets to the final one. He doesn't neglect emotionally.
Well, the mother, I guess he does. No, he doesn't.
No,
he never does. He's a caring guy for some reason.
Yeah.
Yeah, because he can never get to the final part.
Right.
He can never separate entirely.
I would love for him to use the voice box like Dennis does. You're gonna die, bitch.
Well, here's the thing: is Dennis is not falling in love with these people.
That's true.
Right. So Victor is falling in love with her as what he thinks is love. So that's why he wouldn't want to finish off the Dennis system. But he's got a pretty good den system working, right?
Yeah. Cut it in half, right?
Yeah, it's the second half of the Dennis system that makes it work for Dennis.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
It's definitely more in character with him.
Yeah.
This is just the den, like you said, right?
Yeah, the first half is creepy stalker behavior, and then everything after that is just sociopathic, lack of emotional stability thing, and that's completely Dennis's character.
Yeah.
Can I ask a question?
Yeah.
Sure.
Where does Victor get the house from? Does he just find a random empty house?
It looks like a model home, to be honest.
But how does he get in there?
I mean, he is a doctor. He might actually have money. Maybe he's renting it.
They never say where he gets enough money, right?
They
How
don't.
does he get to Acapulco? How does he get home? How does he get anything? How does he fund a wedding?
I don't know.
We need to know these things.
I'm assuming he's independently wealthy because he was a doctor for many years before he decided to start stalking his patients.
This is why we need to watch the first one.
Yeah, I don't even know if we're gonna get all these answers, but maybe we'll have to watch the first one day.
I think so. There's a lot of unanswered questions here.
So he eventually, after we get some beauty shots of his Amy pancakes, he eventually goes to examine Amy, and he examines her and says it was probably food poisoning, and says he still wants to run some blood tests as a precaution. He makes some weird mention of it being weird that someone would drink iced tea at 3 a.m. So then Amy asks him how he knows that she was up at 3 a.m., but more hypothetical than accusatorial. And then she makes some enormous assumptions that everyone wakes up in the middle of the night at 3 a.m. and says that's the reason she wants to become a doctor. So in a word, she's an idiot.
Yeah.
This is the first slip up, and because she's an idiot, it completely goes under.
Oh, she gives him the out.
Yeah,
absolutely.
The luckiest stalker ever.
Like she's like, why is it always 3 a.m.? I was like, what the fuck are you talking about? How do you know?
If he said that like that? There's literally no evidence of
everyone.
everyone.
I was in his house at 3 a.m. That's how I knew. You idiot.
Right. He just gets so frustrated. Like, how could you be so dumb? No one. That's not a thing. That's not a phenomena. People don't just wake up at 3 a.m. People wake up at all times of the night. You moron.
2:46.
Right.
1:15.
1:30. Yeah. God. Read the clues. The bag was there.
I poisoned the iced tea, for God's sakes.
Right. You don't think that's not weird? Put two and two together, goddammit.
Who gets food poisoning from iced tea?
Right. No wonder you're from Boise, Idaho.
Nobody. It's just leaves. Leaves and water.
Yeah, that's you really gotta. And she wants to be a doctor. That's not good.
No. She's gonna be a terrible doctor.
Oh yeah.
So back at his place, Victor prints out some lab results. Spoiler. So for some reason at this point, the movie is trying to like lead us on a little bit at this point. So he pours out the blood sample and just fakes the test results. So we don't really find that out, but that's basically what happens. For some reason, we're on the journey every step of the way with Victor. We see him poison iced tea, but now all of a sudden when it comes to these results, it gets a little like kind of cheeky in terms of trying to hide some information and then revealing it later. like I said, he printed out the fake test results, and Amy shows up where Victor has claimed to work, and he's there in the lobby and manages to run into her, quote unquote, so she doesn't have to ask the receptionist for her. So he tells her that her blood test came back normal, except, oh, by the way, you have herpes.
Which
That's so good.
Can that be told in a blood test? Like,
I would imagine, right?
Yeah. Like, not even like he's like, oh, like, what I mean is like asymptomatic genital herpes. Like, he's like, you won't notice it, but it's there.
Yeah,
you know?
I'm not sure. I think because herpes, you can't get rid of herpes.
No,
it just
they're forever.
obviously it lives in your blood forever. So, I mean, but I would think that unless you're looking for it, you wouldn't find it.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Like, yes.
Yeah. Yeah. She doesn't even question, like, why'd you run an STD test on me?
Yeah. I don't know. Surprise, people. We are not doctors on this podcast.
The real question is, why doesn't anyone ask who this gentleman is? Right? It's busy enough standing there. There's still security there.
Yeah, I don't know. Maybe security's on break.
And she asks where his office is, and he says that, oh, they didn't put up my name on the door yet. Like, but you've been here for so long. Again, this girl, I understand she's young, but you gotta ask these questions, man. You gotta figure this stuff out.
Yeah. So she says that's impossible because her and Garth have only ever had sex with each other. So then he insinuates that Garth is lying to her. So Amy goes to school and finds Garth talking to a couple of cheerleaders, and they leave, and she accuses him of sleeping with them. And then she tells him that he gave her herpes. They both have a fight, both accusing each other of cheating, and she storms off. Then we have a montage of Victor trying to help Linda overcome her fears. She stands on a bar stool, shot entirely in a weird wide-angle lens. And she drives over a bridge, but not before parking in the middle of the lane.
Yep. This is a bad spot.
And then she climbs up a ladder, possibly the same ladder that murdered her husband.
I think it is. It's a light blue ladder, right? Yeah. Jen pointed out, why would they still have the ladder?
Yeah, right?
Well, that's a good question.
This is the ladder that murdered my husband. I'm just gonna keep it.
Right. Yeah, it's just kind of like in the backyard or something like that, or they keep it in the garage, and she has to pass by it every day. Yeah. Like, this is my misery. I need to be reminded.
It's her penance for something bad she did.
Right. Oh, can we just go back to, like, how terrible of a death is that? Right. That's got to be top 5 worst ways to die.
Yeah.
Or most embarrassing, at least.
Just never took his hands off the ladder.
That's right. Just go all the way down. Help!
Yeah, that is one you do not reveal when you're
right, when you go to heaven.
When you go to the afterlife, you know.
Yeah. Yeah. Again, listen. If that happens to me, like if Jen tells you, like, yeah, Dan died. He was, he was painting the side of the house for me, and he fell 5 feet and cracked his head open and died. I just make anything else up. I do not care, man. Just like, oh, he went to a strip club and, like, he got hit in the head with some, with whatever. Just make something up. I don't care. I just don't want to be known as the guy who died falling 5 feet after painting the side of a house.
Well, at the very least, we'll get rid of the ladder for you.
Yeah, please don't keep the ladder around. My mortal enemy, the ladder.
Sort of cucked her husband, right?
Oh, yeah.
That's the ultimate cuck, killing him.
Killing him, yeah.
And just staying in the house.
What if they should have made the movie about a sentient ladder?
Yeah. Murder, the ultimate cuck.
Yeah, that's not talked about enough.
So Garth calls Amy and he apologizes. He throws a whole bunch of lines at her, and then she says that she has to go because Victor is giving her a physiology lecture. So the lecture happens, and Victor's lecture is specifically about oxytocin, which he calls the cuddle hormone. It's released during orgasm and deepens the feeling of connection between couples. And then he asks Amy if she ever experienced this phenomenon. Amy gets creeped out and says she has to go to bed now. Bye. And then the next morning, Amy goes to Linda and tells her that Victor made her feel uncomfortable last night, saying that he was prying into her sex life and looking at her weird. So Linda shames Amy for making her feel bad, completely dismissing her concerns and suggesting maybe she made the whole thing up. And it just sounds like every other victim of sexual harassment.
Right. Yeah. And it's usually not from your mother, though.
Right.
Yeah. Usually they're on your side.
You would hope.
That's
if one
a dad
person's going to be on your side, it's going to be your mom.
Right. Usually that's the dad thing. Like, are you sure you weren't just like looking too much into it?
Yeah.
Or like, yeah, maybe you just misheard him or whatever. But again, Eric Roberts does nothing to try to hide him being creepy there.
Nope.
Right? The way he says it to her, he's like staring daggers at her.
Yeah.
Like, have you ever felt that way, Amy? Like, okay. She should have fucked with him. Like, oh, I feel it every day with Garth all the time.
Yeah. Amy has this conversation with Linda, and then she storms off saying that she will not live in the same house as Victor if her mom has plans on him moving in. So Linda confronts Victor about what happened during the lecture, and Victor simply says that Amy has construed what happened and that Amy might be trying to keep her mother from moving on in an effort to keep the memory of her father alive. So Linda buys it. Victor goes to Linda's house and swipes the hide a key, then comes across Amy crying in the living room. Kids are writing shitty things on her social media, including "bitch got herpes."
Very poignant, straight to the point.
Yeah. Victor consoles her in the only way a creepy older man would. He also apologizes to her for the miscommunication during the lecture. Then she apologizes and hugs him, then kisses him, and then they make out.
That really happened.
Yep.
They actually filmed that.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah.
That's what I was thinking through the scene.
Yeah.
Like, this might be a fantasy sequence in this movie, but this was actually filmed.
Yeah, it's very uncomfortable. Even for a dream sequence, it's just like, ugh. Why did they agree to this?
Yeah. So meanwhile, Linda is upstairs moisturizing when she hears moans of pleasure coming from downstairs. So she goes to investigate and gets to the balcony and sees Amy half naked making out with Victor. So she faints and falls over the balcony while Victor and Amy continue to make out over her dead body.
It might be the best scene in the movie.
It's easily the best scene. She gets all dizzy, and just falls over.
And then they chuckle and then go back to making out.
Mom. Man, that's when I realized it was, this is fake. Okay, got it.
Surprise.
At that point, right.
It was
at
all
that
dream.
point, I thought it was for real. And they did a really good job of making it seem as if it actually happened.
Yeah.
But holy shit, man, that's a great scene. That's one of the best scenes I've ever witnessed.
So he wakes up and then gives Linda a call saying he wanted to talk to her about something. So the next morning, Linda talks to Amy about the fact that Victor asks her to marry him, and she's going to say yes. So Amy gets pissed, says that she should just date him for a while and see how it goes, which is a very valid point.
Yep.
And then Linda tells Amy that her dad is not coming back and she needs to move on, so Amy gets pissed and leaves again. So Amy goes to school and calls her Uncle Roger, who is basically a deadbeat, never was musician that parks his motorcycle in his kitchen.
What a weird character this guy is.
Are we sure he wasn't in Florida?
He's in LA.
Yeah.
But yeah, I see how you mean that. Amy tells Roger that she needs his help with trying to talk some sense into her mother regarding this new guy, Victor. Roger eventually agrees and hops on a train to San Diego. Linda thinks that Roger's there to borrow money, and Roger starts prying into Linda's relationship with Victor. And then Victor shows up, and while they're having this conversation in the back porch, he's in the house and he kind of eavesdrops over this whole conversation. So he learns Roger's name and does some internet sleuthing on his phone, figuring out that Roger is a musician. So Linda starts taking offense that Roger thinks he could be giving advice when he used to sell drugs in LA. So then Victor rings the doorbell pretending he had just arrived, not heard any of the conversation, and Linda introduces him to Roger. Victor says he heard so much about him and he's downloaded one of Roger's songs, and then immediately Roger falls in love with him. So Victor says that he used to play bass and they bro out over some brewskis. Yeah. Meanwhile, Garth has a blood test and reacts like he just had open heart surgery. He's like, ah. And then he has to touch where they drew blood. Like, man, it's fucking blood. Just chill the fuck out.
Honestly, that's probably how I would react. I've given blood once and had to have blood taken once, and both times I almost fainted. So I'm Team Garth on this.
The worst part about having blood drawn is having to take off the tape afterwards.
Not to get too into detail, but the people who were putting the needle in couldn't find my vein, so they were really digging around in there. And yeah, the first time I gave blood, I did it in high school. I was like, it's a blood donor blood donor day or whatever. So I was like, yeah, I'm gonna be a nice guy. I'm gonna give blood and help someone else out. And it totally came back and bit me in the ass. So that's why don't help anyone, people. All right, it only hurts you.
Unless it's a ploy like Victor would do to try and get on someone's good side, right?
Right. Yeah, only do it to be manipulative.
Yeah.
That's the only time you should help people.
So then Amy goes to Roger, who's unpacking, and is all like, what the fuck? Why are you broing out with this guy? And he's like, maybe you misread the situation. He doesn't seem like that bad of a guy. He did save you from drowning after all.
But he's a bassist, so that really should have been a red flag. Like, no one trusts the bassist.
So Roger sees Victor out, and they bro out some more about playing music, and then Roger asks Victor where he played music, and he says Salt Lake City. Turns out Roger lived in Salt Lake City for 5 years. That's where I learned to be an alcoholic, he says, which is also the hardest city in the U.S. to be an alcoholic.
It's a dry state, right? Or
It's
dry
like,
city.
The state has like beer can only be like less than 4% alcohol. They're very weak beers.
I'm surprised you didn't take up like skiing or something. I mean, there's so many things to do there.
Yeah. Roger tells Victor his old SL Street address, and Victor acts confused. This is because Salt Lake City has a very specific address convention. All addresses in Salt Lake City are based on the distance from the southeast corner of Temple Square, the Mormon Temple. So if you go 1 block north, it's 100 north, and likewise for the other directions. So he mentions like 400 and 300, 400 north, 300 east, or something like that. And he says that anyone that lived in Salt Lake City for any amount of time would know this. So Roger tells this to Linda, and she dismisses him, but his suspicions are peaked. So Roger heads to the hospital that Victor says he works at and goes to reception and tries to do some digging. He asks the most helpful receptionist in history, and she does a quick search and doesn't see Dr. Slauson in her database. But she says she can also check the AMA database to see if there's any record there. So at school, Amy and Garth literally run into each other and have a silent moment together as Garth picks her books up for her and then she walks away. So Roger gets woken up from an afternoon nap, I guess, by the receptionist calling him back.
Well, he is a deadbeat, so.
Like, I'm just going to, what is it, 11 o'clock in the morning? Time for a nap.
I got to get up now? Jeez.
Oh, yeah. Like, he wakes up as the phone's ringing. He wakes up like he was passed out for 3 days.
Like it's a huge inconvenience. Goddamn phone.
Yeah. Meanwhile, Linda and Victor have a meal at a restaurant, and Linda discusses the guest list of the wedding while Victor can't stop thinking about Amy's legs. Victor brushes her off about his side of the wedding guest list, saying he doesn't really have any friends, and then she excuses herself to the bathroom. When she's in the bathroom, Roger calls her and leaves her a message as she left her phone on the table. Victor picks it up and listens to the message, which Roger tells the message. He's basically saying what he found out about the hospital, that there is no Victor Slauson in the AMA database. So Victor texts back telling him, as Linda, that he'll meet him back at the house in half an hour, and then deletes all her messages between her and Roger. So Linda comes back and Victor says that he has to leave. So I suppose sticking Linda with the bill at the restaurant. And
Yep.
I tails it out of there. So Roger is there at home, sitting, eating cereal and watching old movies in the middle of the day.
What a weird movie they put on, by the way. They shot an old movie for this movie.
Yep. Yeah, that's going above and beyond.
It is. It's really unnecessary, but it's appreciated.
Definitely second unit sort of stuff. You know, director wasn't there that day. The movie is about some sort of disgraced doctor, which is a bit on the nose. So Victor sneaks into the house and has a syringe of some sort of drug that he plans to stab Roger with. And when he gets to the living room, he goes to stab Roger, but Roger isn't in the lounge chair. But then Roger comes up behind him from the kitchen, and then Roger proceeds to beat the shit out of Victor.
This is a good scene too.
It's so stupid.
he gets his ass kicked, man. It's so good.
Yeah.
And he tries to do the he pulls like the wait, look over there kind of thing.
He does the wrestling heel move.
Yes. Like no, please. Hits him.
Eric Roberts has very much Ric Flair energy when it comes to getting into a fight.
That's perfect. Right, he should have done like the hold the hands up, no more, and then poked him in the eyes, gave him the eye poke. That would have been so good.
So Roger jumps on top of Victor, trying to choke him out, and as this is happening, Victor starts to imagine that the woman in the movie is Amy, and she starts giving him the Hulk Hogan kind of psyching him up, basically.
Fight back, Doc. Fight back.
So he works up the energy to grab the syringe and stabs Roger in the neck, and Roger passes out. And then actress Amy looks at Victor from the TV and tells him to kill her mother, which he then says, yes, I will. So then Victor then drags Roger back to the house and dissolves him in an acid in a tub, a la Breaking Bad. And then the wedding happens.
It's never brought up again.
The wedding happens, Linda and Amy talk, and they make up, and they make mention that no one has seen Roger in a week. Supposedly, they think he just went back to L.A.
Oh,
so Linda,
I do remember that, but I feel like they should have found the body or something, right? Bring a little closure.
There's no body.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
I just thought it would have made more sense if they find some evidence that he was murdered.
Right.
I mean, that's neither here nor there, but I would have liked it.
Yeah. So Linda mentions that they're honeymooning in a rented house 45 minutes away. He gives the information to Amy, and then Victor excuses himself to go upstairs and to call his doctor on Skype, who is, let's say, suspicious. She says that she found out who he really is. He's Dr. Albert Beck, who fell in love with a teenage girl, kidnapped her, faked her death, and then fled to Mexico, which are the events of the first film. Beck says that he didn't hurt that girl and she actually betrayed him. And then an FBI agent pops up on the other end and says they can trace the transmission from the computer. Why doesn't he just turn himself in? And then Amy walks in on his conversation, and it actually turns out that he's talking to himself the whole time. The computer was off. And then he makes up some excuses like, well, when you lived alone as long as I have, you kind of talk to yourself. So she's creeped out. She tells him her mom is waiting for him, and then he cryptically says that if anything happens to her mom, he'll take care of her and that he loves her. So she gets creeped out, goes to tell her mom about seeing Victor to talk to himself, but decides not to, and they leave for their honeymoon. Amy gets a call from Garth, and he says that he got a blood test and he doesn't have herpes. He also says that he showed her blood test to a doctor, and the doctor said she had never seen a blood test formatted in that way.
I thought you were going to say she's never seen a blood test. I don't know what this is.
Yeah, and they completely ignored the HIPAA violation that showing the doctor the blood test is.
Right.
Is that a real thing?
It sort of goes against doctor-patient confidentiality, I'm assuming.
Oh, I did not know that.
I mean, because Garth is showing somebody else's blood tests to another doctor that didn't.
Oh, that's right.
Blood test.
Okay.
There's definitely some iffy ethics things going on here.
Eric Roberts should have gone after that woman's license.
Yep. So Garth says that he thinks Victor faked the test in order to break them up. So then Amy then runs off to Victor's house to kind of snoop around, which is basically empty. And she sneaks in through a window. And is this the same house?
I don't know. I have no clue.
It seemed like the same house that was a stand-in for Linda and Amy's house.
It's very similar. It definitely has. The kitchen looked similar, at least.
Yeah.
Right. The island looked almost identical. So it might have been.
Yeah. So Amy does some snooping. She comes across a newspaper clipping of a woman that died on her honeymoon, which you got to destroy that sort of evidence, man. You can't keep that stuff lying around.
Too many stupid mistakes, man.
Yeah. So Amy calls her mom but can't get through. So then she calls the cops. Cops want to transfer her to a counselor, but then she admits that she broke up into Victor's house, and the cops is more concerned about that.
Rightfully so.
You just confessed to a felony?
That's such a great line. The operator's like, you realize you just told me you committed a felony, right? It's like so matter of factly, like, you're an idiot, aren't you? Like, oh God. And then Amy says, you people are impossible. You people are impossible. You just admitted to breaking and entering, but they're the impossible ones.
Yeah.
There's something wrong with them, not you, right?
Yeah.
What do you mean, you people?
Amy starts driving towards the honeymoon house and calls Garth, who seems to have put all of this out of his mind as he plays soccer on the beach.
Right. Yeah. He literally got done telling Amy that Victor's up to something. But like, no, I got to go play some soccer with the bros. I promised. I blew them off last week. I got to make it up to him.
All this shit happens, and as soon as he hangs up the phone, he gets a text message. He goes, "Bro, we're playing soccer on the beach." Right. He's like, "Well, I know where I'm going."
Yeah. Like, I won't have my phone on me, even though I know my girlfriend is trying to stop a potential killer.
Right. We just figured out that this guy's a liar and pretty skeevy. But, how many times am I going to get a chance to play soccer?
So she gets his voicemail and she tells Garth that she's going to the house and she needs him to meet her there. Victor and Linda arrive at the house and go up to the bedroom. Victor gets Linda progressively drunker and then blindfolds her, then takes her outside onto a balcony. Amy arrives at the house. While Linda is blindfolded, Victor coaxes her to stand on the balcony ledge and tells her to undo the blindfold. Amy shows up on the balcony and Victor straight up pushes Linda off the balcony. And Victor then wrestles Amy to the bed and tries to assault her. Meanwhile, Linda, showing an incredible feat of strength, managed to cling to the side of the balcony and pull herself back up. As we mentioned, once she catches herself, though, she should have had no problem dropping down in a non-life-threatening fall. Linda then grabs the champagne bottle and smashes it over Victor's head, knocking him out. The cops show up and they take Victor away, who's been tied up in a bedsheet, and then so does Garth. And him and Amy hug. And then we fade out in prison. Victor is reading Lolita as a female prison guard chokes on a candy bar. He gets the other guards to open his cell while he gives her the Heimlich, and he's successful in stopping her from choking to death. So she says that she owes him one, and he says, yeah, you do. And then looks right into the camera and gives us a wink and fade out.
No prison guard would ever say that to an inmate. I owe you one.
Yeah, right? Oh, now it's like, well, how much drugs can you smuggle in?
Exactly. Yeah, that's got to be like the first thing they tell you when you get there, right? Like, do not say you owe the prisoners a favor.
That's rule number one.
They will definitely take advantage of that.
And that's the end of Stalked by My Doctor: The Return in all its craziness.
Yeah, fucking wild, man. So wild. It's and at the end, how I had pointed out earlier, where Victor really goes the extra mile for a woman that he despises, essentially. When they get to the honeymoon cabin or mansion or whatever it is, he went all out. He got champagne. He got the rose petals in the shape of a heart on the bed. So, I mean, at that point, the ruse is over, dude, right? You don't need to do all that. You married her. It's over.
Look, in his perfect world, he's going to need to explain everything to the cops. So it needs to look legit.
So you think the rose petals it was 100% needed?
I think it paints a picture of a man in love.
Okay.
It's like, oh, look, this guy couldn't have. It was obviously an accident. Look at all the trouble he went to. He wouldn't have just knocked her off, you know.
Okay.
Although he doesn't just abandon that, because it so clearly pushes Linda right in front of a witness. Unless he's planning to kill Amy. That's a witness.
True. Yeah, it's just I don't agree with how far he goes in getting everything the way he wants it. Mm-hmm. Maybe it's just because I'm super lazy. I think that's probably what it is.
It is a lot of effort.
It is.
Look, lying is an effort, you know.
But he's like the king of it. Yeah. He really goes the extra mile for it, and
he's a lying professional.
Yeah, I guess kudos to him. Although I would have just stayed in Acapulco, man. Why would you ever?
Yeah.
Right. Why would you leave to come back to fucking L.A.?
Mm-hmm.
San Diego.
Well, San Diego.
Okay, a little better.
A little better. I mean, but I'm guessing it's a compulsion. Because he's crazy. He can't resist himself when he falls in love with a 17-year-old.
That's true. I mean, I guess I'm forgetting that I'm not nuts. Yeah. So I gotta step back and pretend that I'm a crazy person, I guess. And yeah, I guess it makes you do weird things.
I mean, I keep saying she's 17, but in this world she's probably 18, because it makes the filmmakers feel better, you know.
Right. At least she's of age, sort of.
She's an early birthday, you know.
I was just gonna say.
In October, so.
Yeah. I was gonna say I'm surprised they didn't come right out and say like, oh, I just turned 18 like yesterday in Acapulco, just to make it like super borderline extra creepy, I guess.
Yeah. Is there anything you guys would do to make this movie better?
Oh, yeah, we didn't really I would find a better way for the husband to have died. Just anything, like just give him a car crash at least. Give him the benefit of that. Right, you know, he was coming home from work or whatever, like a late night at the office, head-on collision, thrown from the car, whatever. Don't give the man that kind. If I were reading for that part and like it comes like, yeah, you die from falling off a ladder, I'm like, well, I'm passing on this fucking role. This is terrible.
I will say it is the laziest moment of this movie.
Yeah, for sure.
Every part of it is just so terrible. Help!
Yeah, it happens off screen. He's not even that high up. It's just like it's something that just needs to happen.
At the very worst, he should have just gotten a concussion.
Yeah.
I would change that. But yeah, man, this movie just strikes the right amount of creepy.
Yeah.
I was legit uncomfortable watching this movie.
Yeah.
And that's a big part of, Eric Roberts is
being creepy.
Oh yeah, he's so good at it. He's so good at it. Anthony sent us a picture, 2 frames of when they're getting ready to go, when Victor and his new bride are getting ready to go to the honeymoon suite. And the one picture is Eric Roberts just smiling at Amy. And holy shit, man, that would haunt my nightmares. That look.
Yeah.
That's really creepy. I can't believe this guy was in a music video with Mariah Carey. Right? He doesn't deserve that. Or maybe he does. I don't know. But it's just, that's so creepy.
Yeah. And I already mentioned mine was I would have had the boyfriend catch her when she fell off the ledge. That's the only thing I would add to this movie.
I've got you, Mrs. Whatever your last name is.
No, not even that. Like, she falls, and it's one of those things where he, like, breaks her fall.
Right. I would have imagined him, like, running out of nowhere, just grabbing her.
Yeah.
That's why he's a goalie.
That's right, yeah. And then she even says, like, oh, talk about a save.
Yeah.
That's what I call
that would seem like a pun I would write for Stranger Damies.
Yeah, I think that would have been a great ending, by the way. I've got you. And he still
has his goalie gloves on.
What if, to kill her, he would push her off the ladder?
That would be great.
Right. He puts a blindfold on her and tells her to walk up the ladder. Now take the blindfold off. Oh my God, it's the same ladder.
Why did we not get rid of this?
Why is it at the honeymoon suite? He transported it all the way up to the mountains. I would have loved that. That would have been a great ending. I also probably would have gotten rid of the fourth wall breaking. It comes out of nowhere. Either you get rid of it or you add more, right? You can't just have one sequence of fourth wall breaking.
Yeah, I like it because it muddies the morality of the viewer in this movie.
Like, yeah, you're supposed to root for him, I guess, at the end. Like, oh, he got out.
Yeah, it just kind of makes us complicit in all the things that he did. It's like, I saw you watching me, right. And you loved it.
Right. You stuck around to this part, so.
And there's gonna be a third one.
I would have loved it if at the end he said that. Make sure to tune in for Stalked by My Doctor 3.
Yeah, this movie is hilarious, and it's mostly thank you, Eric Roberts, for giving these movies your all. If this is your all,
right?
These movies don't deserve your performance, but I'm so happy that they have them.
Yeah. Jen made a good point. Like, the only way these movies could have been better is if, like, Nicolas Cage was in them.
Oh yeah. Sure.
Nicolas Cage, like, he could pull this movie off. It would have been so good. But yeah, Eric Roberts, kudos to him, man. Like we were saying, he probably got the least amount of talent in that family, but he makes it work in this. Yeah. And I'm assuming all the other movies.
Mm-hmm. He's doing what he needs to.
Yep.
You guys got any final thoughts for this movie?
Mark, what do you think?
Yeah, essentially, it was a fun watch. It goes in line with all those dumb movies that we've seen on Lifetime, Hallmark. The main thing all those good ones, or in quotes, good ones, have in common is that the lead actor is just so into the role and, like, throwing 100% behind it. Because if anybody even throws like 80% into this, like Eric Roberts, this movie does not work. He's 100% there, whether he's influenced by alcohol or not, allegedly. He's the whole reason this movie's fun.
Yeah, I agree with that. If you don't give 100%, it definitely shows in this kind of movie. Yeah, I liked it. I think this was a diamond in the rough. I had very low expectations, but I wouldn't recommend it to anyone else. Other than us. But I feel like people would probably think I was weird if I just went, I'm like, "Yo, have you seen Stalked by My Doctor, the series? Dude, you gotta go see this. It's so good." They'd be like, "Dan, are you all right? I think we need to talk." But just purely from a comedy standpoint, it checks off all the boxes, man. It's hilarious. It's so silly, and I love it.
All right, you guys want to plug your shit?
Yeah, at the Aquino122 is my Twitter account. Follow me on that. Stranger Damies on Twitter and Instagram at Stranger Damies. We surpassed the 1,000 follower mark. We just keep going, man. I love it. And if you want to talk movies, comic books, Dungeons and Dragons, whatever, we are open to talk.
Yeah, and speaking of Dungeons and Dragons, our podcast Stranger Damies airs every Wednesday, and then every other Monday we also have the Game Vault Pod, which is our video game podcast. We'll have a new one coming up, I believe this next week, if I'm doing the math right. We really should find a way to sync the podcast so that I can figure it out every other week, but just check out the Twitter at Game Vault Pod. That'll keep you up to date on everything. We stream as well. The streaming schedule will be there. It's normally Wednesday, Thursday, one of the weekend days, Friday or Saturday, or Sunday. And then whatever Monday we do, the podcast airs. We do that. So that's twitch.tv/Game Vault Pod. We're affiliates, so you can subscribe and follow us there. So feel free to do all that. And like Dan said, we're on social medias as well.
Okay. And this is They Called This a Movie. You can find us on at theycallthisamovie.podbean.com and everywhere you get your podcasts. So that's Google Play Podcast, iTunes, Stitcher, Spotify. We are on there. Just look for They Called This a Movie and we should pop right up. This is themaindamie.com. It's the main website where we post everything that we do. That's themaindamie.com, and on all social media, just look for The Main Damie and we will be there. So that's Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. So not all social media, but the most important ones. We are also proud members of Geek Vibes Nation. You can find them at gbnation.com and on all social media at Geek Vibes Nation. A bunch of great people there. Our shows are there, as well as a bunch of other great shows. There's something for everyone. If you're into geek stuff, there's probably a show for you. Just check those guys out. A bunch of great people just coming together to make great content. And that's about it. If you have any questions or comments, you want to suggest a movie for us, themaindamie@gmail.com. We have great stuff coming up. We are about to hit our 100th numbered episode. I think technically in the count we're there now at 100 episodes, but really in terms of 100 movies that we've done, this is episode 98, so we're in a couple more. So we might have a little special show somewhere in there as well. So very exciting. If you have the time, go to iTunes, give us a 5-star rating, review it. Doesn't have to be a long review. Just tell us we're great. And that's about it. I'm at Antelvec on Twitter. You can reach me there, or at The Main Damie. Probably they're most active on social media is on Twitter at The Main Damie. That's going to wrap it up. This week, we watched Stalked by My Doctor, The Return, directed by Doug Campbell. So, for Dan Aquino and Mark Myers, this is Anthony Del Vecchio saying to Doug Campbell, well, you certainly made a movie, didn't you?